Hi, James.
Hey, Martin. My name is James Massella from Movie Death Blows. Thanks for taking the time to sit down with me today.
Good. Pleasure, mate.
I got to ask. I was doing some research on Dirty Angels, and I realized it's really one of the first things you have as a writer in your filmography. How did that come about for you?
Well, it was just a story, mate, really. And to be honest, there was a script already written. It needed work. We had to change the story, so I did a lot of work on the story. As a writer, I can't write. I don't write. I'm hopeless as a writer. Uh, I can work on scripts, obviously. I can work on the story. Um, and Alicia did a great job on the script, I thought, so it's only the story, James.
Gotcha. One of my favorite scenes of the movie is the opening scene because when I first watched it, I thought it was a flashback. I thought it was we were like getting the end first, and then but then that
What,
that
what you mean?
with the stoning and everything like that.
Oh my
Like,
God, it's horrible, isn't it? God.
I mean, it's brutal. I thought that was the end, and we were like flashing back to it, but I really liked that it threw me for a loop there. Like, was that an idea you had, or just I'm the first person to
No,
mention
no,
that?
no. It was in the script. I mean, the point was that the stoning, and that ties up with what happened to a commanding officer, right? Which we later learn and so forth. But it's such a horrific sort of horrible way to die. If you see what I mean,
A
it's.
biblical way, yes,
I mean,
yes.
it's just brutal, isn't it? Yeah.
I also like the courage under fire callback with like the courtroom scene where she's talking about the pilot that flew away and everything like that. It gave me flashbacks to Courage Under Fire from the '90s.
Well, I guess the subtext of that is the military don't really like women that much in the military. It was a very biased kind of very biased kind of inquiry, wasn't it?
What was it like getting to work with Ava Green, your star in this movie? She plays Jake, but you got to work with her previously on Casino Royale. What's it like reuniting with her almost 20 years later?
The funny thing is, you fall into it as though it's been like 3 weeks. I mean, the strange thing is with actors, when you work with them again, you actually you actually just pick up where you left off. It doesn't matter what the gap is. In our case, you're right, probably 18, 20 years, whatever it was. Um, and that's what we did. We fell into it. And the great thing for her was it couldn't be more opposite to the character, couldn't be more opposite to what she did in Casino Royale.
As a director, is it useful for you to have someone you have familiarity with as an actor, or do you like coming in
Absolutely.
fresh with?
Absolutely. Yeah. No question, because it just makes it much easier in the sense that you've worked with them, you've directed them, right? You know each other, right? And so there's the communications are much simpler, basically.
I'm looking at the cast. You've got Eva, you've got Ruby, you've got Maria, Rona Lee, everybody like that. How did the cast end up coming together? Was it something that happened very quickly, or did you guys have to really search for the right actresses to play these roles?
Well, the battle was there's always this thing about financiers always want, how films work. The point is, you want to make a film, okay, here's the budget, but we need A, B, and C, right? And so they always come up with Brad Pitt or ridiculous names that are completely impossible, right? Because each actor has a value for foreign sales, that's how they set them up, right? And once you get your foreign sales, you get your budget of the film. Um, and I was determined. I just wanted faces that really were unknown. Obviously, Maria's known, but the rest of them, and perhaps uh, probably those two, Eva and. But I just wanted the rest of them to feel like you didn't really recognize them, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
That made it much more realistic for me than having, as it were, names as such in the cast.
I did a video on TikTok the other day talking about like strong female characters that are just like badasses, because people are like, oh, women can't be heroes and everything like that. And I was like, I don't know what you guys have been watching because I grew up with a bunch of them. So I mean, like Xena Warrior Princess and Leia and Buffy the
Oh
Vampire
yeah,
and like
yeah.
all. So like it's like this new thing where people like I don't know if it's mostly guys or anything like that, but just like women can't beat people up. I was like, I don't know, some of them have been pretty badass my entire life. I don't know, is that you mean people are going to say this about this? They will have its detractors that say women can't be in the military, like we were talking about before. What do you feel about that?
Well, the point is this: look, there are women in the military, and they are, they go into action. And the point is, in this case, the mission could only be performed by women, in my view. Right? You can't have a bunch of men go into Afghanistan. Right? They're not going to get very far, particularly Afghanistan now. Women, they're treated like fifth-class citizens. They're not noticed, right? They wear their hijabs, right, which is a perfect masking, as it were, for hiding them, right? So their chances of success are much greater than if it was, if men were sent in. And so I think they're perfectly suited for it. And with the action of the movie, I tried to keep it very realistic. I believe the women could, in all the action, could do what they do. In other words, these are not kind of heightened action, that they're not kicking the hell out of, five black suited kind of, thugs coming at them, which is all rubbish, of course. But the action in the movie is all basically military, and I think they're totally justified in believing that they could do their action, if you see what I mean. That they could do it, right?
I think one of the most interesting parts of the movie is the political intrigue, just because Afghanistan at this time is a confusing hellhole. And like you've got ISIS and the Taliban, and most people confuse them. It's kind of like the same thing, but they're not.
Exactly.
And like you don't know who to trust. This person's on your side, and the next. I felt like I was watching a really awesome long Homeland episode. That's what it was like. But I really appreciated the political intrigue of what was going on at the time. How did you get insight into? Did you like any interviews?
Well, look, ISIS and Taliban have had a civil war going for years. Of course, I mean that's and still goes on now. The Taliban themselves, I think, just a few weeks ago, they've clamped down on women, even worse than they were originally. So, the whole place is a tinderbox, basically, right? I don't think they can even go. I'm not. They're never allowed out by themselves. They have to be completely masked. There's unbelievable. I don't think they can talk to anybody but their own family. I mean, there's outrageous kind of stuff. Also, I think the tapestry or the background of the whole thing being set just a few years ago. I mean, the Americans pulling out of, we all remember that, pulling out of Afghanistan, leaving all their equipment behind and everything else, plus the Taliban, who stepped straight back into, so we wasted, 20 years of God knows how much money and how many lives it costs to achieve nothing. Ultimately, ISIS, now, of course, they're still kidnapping people, they're still killing people. The fight goes on. So it's very topical, I think. Yeah. That was the background to them.
Yeah. I'm going to age you a little bit here, Martin, because I'll be 38 next month. And the first time I ever went to the movies for a birthday party was to see a movie that you directed for my birthday party called GoldenEye in 1995, when I was going to be 9 years old. So you've always held a special place in my heart as being the first movie or birthday party I ever went to see. One of my favorite Bond movies, one of my favorite movies of all time. But you're a director of some of my favorite movies of all time. Besides that, I mean, The Mask of Zorro, Vertical Limit, I love, Casino Royale. Like, you just have a long lasting filmography that I enjoy. So, what can you tell me about GoldenEye? What's a quick story you can tell me about that, real quick?
GoldenEye. What can I tell you about GoldenEye? Not much. It was the first film. First of all, I got it by. I did a film called No Escape with Ray. It didn't take a cent. That movie. It didn't. It's like, right. I get a call. Head of MGM calls me up. I don't know what the hell it's about. I go and he says, "Would you like to direct Bond?" I said, "Why me?" I said, "Well," he said, "Well, I saw No Escape and I really liked it. And like, it's a film that totally failed, if you see what I mean." And I got that. And the interesting thing was that I remember we wrote the script well, I didn't write the script, but we had 5 writers, I think. Finally, we had Bruce Fierstein. And I think I mean, I heard this story, but the producers handed the script to the head at the time of United Artists and said, well, they met him and said, what do you think? And the legend goes that he walked around and dumped it in the waste paper basket and said, that's what I think of it, right? And that's the movie I shot. So
And it worked, damn it.
I know. So whether that's I forget who was telling me that story, but so there you go. That's.
I'll remember the story forever now, Martin. I'll be telling people that we have this conversation.
I'm sure it's probably not true, but it was a lovely story, I have to say.
Martin, that's all I've got for you today. It's been a pleasure, man. I hope everybody gets to see Dirty Angels when it comes out on December 13th, man. I appreciate your time. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, man. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Bye-bye.